Yes, it is happening. Ukraine will obtain Mirage 2000-5 from France. It was officially announced today by President of France, Emmanuel Macron. Great job, France, supporting Ukraine with those fighter jets. Absolutely great, gorgeous airplane, and also it has outstanding characteristics. Well, according to subjective information found on aviation forums, the South Mirage outperforms some of the American fighters like, for example, F-15s. Well, it also depends on the pilot skills in particular situation. As for me, Mirage is very similar to F-16 for its capabilities. It also has a single engine and similar size as F-16. The maiden flight of this airplane type was in 1978, so a long time ago, but nevertheless, there are lots of the modifications and Ukraine will obtain Dash 5 modification. I just wonder what kind of the Dash 5 modification, Dash 5F or MK2. In F modification, there was the upgrade of the cockpit displays to the full glass cockpit and also some of the weaponry and radar modernization. However, the MK2 is much better one because it features a new generation of the radars, RDY2, plus many more advanced computer systems which increase the capability of the fighter jet, so hopefully M2 modification will go to Ukraine. Plus many more of the computerized system which increase the capabilities of the fighter jet, so hopefully MQ modification will go to Ukrainian Air Force. President Macron said that the pilot training might take around 5 months, and he predicts that Ukraine will obtain those fighter jets this year, at the end of the year. Well, as you understand, it all means that all of the next year, 2025, there will be the war in Ukraine started by full-scale Russian aggression. Hello, my friends, and welcome. My name is Dennis, and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. Alright, what else Macron said on today's anniversary of the D-Day? Yeah, 80 years passed since the big landing operation of Allies in Normandy, which by the way was the largest seaborne operation in human history. So Macron said that they're gonna train not just Ukrainian pilots, but also Ukrainian soldiers and officers. However, he mentioned not in Ukraine, but in France. So France still hesitates to openly send some of the instructors to Ukraine. However, we know that some of the specialists from France are located in Ukraine. This information was shared around the media sources and they help Ukraine to cope with the French-made weaponry and also Western-made weaponry in general. But overall, I think that the news from France are fantastic. France really supports Ukraine a lot. As well as, by the way, the United States of America, the next week there will be a new military package announced to help Ukraine to fight against the Russian intervention. Alright, and again about Mirage topic, the training of Ukrainian pilots starts from tomorrow. Also, we know that there are some of the newcomers who are now ongoing the training in France, from the piston aircraft type and then to the training jet, and after all, they will be sent not to fly F-16s, but those Mirages. So totally, potentially, Ukraine might obtain more than 100 of the airplanes from the Western countries, including F-16s, Mirages, and probably someday Sweden will supply their Gripens to Ukraine, because that program, as was announced, is not over. So Ukraine will have many of the airplane types, not just F-16, and it is good. However, it complicates logistics for Ukrainian military, because for every aircraft type you have different spare parts, different weaponry sometimes, different pilot or technician ratings, so you cannot tell the pilot of Mirage to fly F-16. It's just not possible. They need to go through the different course, which usually takes a few months. So it makes things a little complicated for Ukraine, but after all, it's better to have those airplanes than not to have those at all. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do here on YouTube daily, you may also join my Patreon page. It is available with my personal link just in the video description below. Thank you so much for your awesome support. President Biden also visited France today, honoring veterans and the event of the D-Day. This video was shared today in internet, showing that Biden is kneeling a little. He just wanted to sit on that chair. Hopefully you can see it too, but the moment for it was definitely not really good. So this video again was shared in internet, showing that something is wrong with Joe Biden. It's just my reference to the video that I filmed yesterday about some of the United States politics. Guys, if you want me to stay out of the United States politics, well, first of all, make United States politics to stay out of Ukraine, and I will not comment on it. Because United States politics influences the world and Ukraine especially. So I will continue to speak about it, about American leaders, possible presidents in future, and what do they do? But nevertheless, after that, Joe is fine, and his speech was quite good and energetic. In his interview to ABC News, Biden told that the American-made weaponry will not be used by Ukraine to target the Russian infrastructure further than 200 miles. 200 miles, it's even more than 300 kilometers. So I think that Ukraine already has the permission to use ATACMS missiles, long-range ATACMS. The United States of America doesn't agree on Ukrainian strikes on Moscow, for example, or Kremlin, as he said, but Ukraine might defend itself against the Russian military near the borders. The Ukrainian delegation also visits France together with Zelensky. Well, basically that's all that I can say about it. Probably there will be some of the pre-negotiations with President of France, Macron, with Biden as well, about the future peace talks around the Ukrainian topic, but the peace, I think, is not possible for a few more years because Putin is not willing to negotiate with Ukraine. Even the Kremlin spokesman Peskov said that there is no any prospect for negotiations between Kiev and Moscow. Oh yeah, France will also relocate around 700 million euros to support Ukrainian energy infrastructure because it's been demolished mostly. Russia strikes Ukraine more often with their missiles, so people in Ukraine have just limited access to electricity as well as many of the factories in Ukraine, so economy struggles a lot. So France will help to repair that stuff, but the repair jobs will take also many years because the infrastructure was completely destroyed. I mean, hydroelectrical power plants, big coal power plants, all of that was targeted, and the only thing which keeps Ukrainian energy still running are the nuclear power plants, which Russia hesitates to attack for the known reason. But again, if Ukraine builds new power plants or restores the damaged ones, Russia might strike those as well, so at first, Ukraine should obtain a very reliable air defense shield. Without it, the repair jobs are just useless. Also, President Macron has confirmed that France is okay for Ukraine to strike Russian soil with their French-made weaponry, like for example Scalp cruise missiles. So I guess those missiles will be massively used on French-made airplanes, American-made F-16s, or the Soviet-made tactical bombers Sukhoi 24s. But Ukraine also continued to hit the Russian infrastructure. For example, today in Kursk Oblast, the Russian train was hit with the help of the drone, so it was disabled. No one was hurt, but this locomotive is not able to run any longer and deliver the Russian weaponry. Also, Russia lost a attack ship in Crimea in the Black Sea. It was targeted by the drone boat. Not a big target, I would say, but those attack ships are used by the Russian Navy to dock their ships and to put them out from the bay, also for the rescue operations and so on. The video of the strike I published on my Telegram channel, so guys, you may check it out in the video description just below. I publish lots of the information out there that I'm unable to publish on YouTube. So to be constantly updated, I highly recommend you to join my group. By the way, recently we reached a new milestone out there, more than 250,000 followers on my Telegram. Guys, thank you so much for your awesome support. And definitely the last night Russia lost one more of their oil refinery facilities. It happened in Novoshakhtinsky district, Krasnodarsky Oblast. The attack was really successful, performed by Ukrainian UAVs, and some say even Neptune missiles, which were designed at first to hit the enemy ships, but they're being used to target the Russian military airfields and also their refineries, which are located just at the coastline. So it was before and it is after. Clearly we see the mark of the strike on this Russian oil refinery. It is completely stopped because sensitive equipment was hit. Those reservoirs are not really that important compared to the refinery facility, to the equipment of the station, so Russia will be unable to repair all of that because the main parts are made in the Western countries like in Germany. So Russia really struggles with that, but they have some of the allies like Kazakhstan and Belarus, the countries which supply fuel to the Russian Federation, as exchange for the oil supply, let's say. Alright, Germany has decided to allocate its own artillery shell stocks to deliver those to Ukraine, and at the same time they're gonna finance the shell production for its own army. Quite a good step. We're speaking about 200,000 artillery shells, which is absolutely great for Ukraine, especially German-made shells. The quality of those is obviously one of the best, uncomparable to the North Korean shells which Russia obtains. So sometimes it's not about the quantity, but about the quality. Also, the United States military factories increased gradually the production of the artillery shells. They want to make the production as more automated as possible because it increases the speed of the production itself. Chancellor Scholz openly said that Ukraine might use German-made weaponry to target the Russian bases, but negotiations about delivery of the Taurus cruise missiles are still ongoing between allies. So Germany still hesitates to deliver that tool to Ukraine, but I think finally, after all, this border will be crossed as well. You know, I'm reviewing this war for a very long time, and the West put its own red lines for itself. It was like that with tanks, with ATACMS, even with HIMARS at some period of time, with fighter jets. The most of the Western politicians, or maybe all of them, were saying, no, Ukraine will not obtain that weaponry, Ukraine will not obtain this weaponry. But after all, they all agreed that Ukraine should have everything. Here I think the Taurus will be also delivered at some point in the future. And yes, by the way, all of the allies, all of them were saying that their weaponry will never be used against Russia on their own territory. But now has told that, okay, Ukraine, use it. And after all, it appeared that Putin was just bluffing about his harsh reaction on that decision. No, he said that he will supply the same kind of the weaponry to the enemies of the West. Is that it? Because some of the Western politicians expected a nuclear strike from Russia in this case. Wow. At the same time, the German government developed a plan in case of the global war, for example, with Russia, because basically there is no other big country nearby which poses the threat to the European Union and to Germany especially. The plan includes lots of the points like redeployment of the German army, preparing the places for the bomb shelters, the possible evacuation of civilians from some of the country places, and obviously reinforcing the army. Russia is testing now some of the drone nets to protect their oil refineries. For example, you can see it on the video. How they might do it, well, I think it wouldn't help. They even painted the drone in Ukrainian colors. How nice is that? You know what Russia is doing with their trophied weaponry that was significantly damaged in Ukraine? For example, the Leopard tank, Abrams, Bradley, and so on. Well, they take those vehicles and they move them all around the Russian cities, showing to their population those trophies. Is it some sort of the cult of the Western vehicles? Because it looks strange. I wonder if this admiration at this point is still a propaganda. Russia continued to obtain some of the supply trucks, motorcycles, buggies, and off-road vehicles. Mostly those are the Chinese-made motorcycles with some of the limited off-road capability. It's a new tactics which Russian soldiers are using on the front lines. The point is to move very fast in the gray area, because the gray area is under the constant monitoring of the surveillance drones, and Ukraine sent the FPV drones if they spot something, because motorcycles are relatively fast compared to the other vehicles, especially off-road. The Russian soldiers might move faster, then there will be a reaction from Ukrainian side, because our guys need at first to spot the motorcycle, then give the command for the drone unit, FPV drone unit, and they need to fly to that area and target the particular motorcycle. So it takes lots of the time, sometimes several minutes, and for that time Russians already might reach Ukrainian positions. For the similar purpose they use those buggies. By the way, Ukrainian army uses that as well, plus some of the ATVs, all-terrain vehicles. Well, usually it happens like that. This is the Russian soldier, he rides his motorcycle, but the only exclusion here in this video that the road is well paved, so he is not on off-road, but for now he is turning off-road. He is not wearing the helmet. Well, he runs so fast that probably, yeah, he lost his rifle over there. Losing a rifle is similar to losing your life on a battlefield. In general, the downside of the tactics is that those motorbikes, they do not have any sort of the protection against any sort of the strikes, bullets, whatsoever. And still it's very rarely that this tactics of the Russian army really works on the front lines. The most effective tool on the front lines, at least from Ukrainian side, are still the FPV drones. Guys, we all know about the Russian turtle tank, but Russian motorcycle turtle? Well, here you go. This is a motorcycle, really, probably even with a sidecar, and it was hit with the help of the FPV drone, and this construction didn't really work properly, so the new Russian DIY was busted. Russia sent some of their military ships and submarines to perform military drills not far away from Cuba. Is it a real threat for the United States? No, I don't think so. Maybe Putin just wants to show that he is willing to respond with those military drills on the new policy of our allies and first of all United States to support Ukraine with strikes on the Russian soil. And we have the notice from Cuban officials that at least 3 of the nuclear Russian submarines will arrive to Havana port. One of the officials of the Russian occupation administration, for example, in Zaporizhia, say that they want to unite all of the occupied regions of Ukraine, the part of Kherson, Oblast, Zaporizhia, Lugansk, Donetsk, and Crimea, and call all of that Novorossiya, so Nova-Russian region of the Russian Federation, something like that. The surname of the guy is Balitsky. He was the supporter of Yanukovych, the ex-Ukrainian president, and now he supports Russia and Putin, so I guess he wants to be in charge of that region. We'll see. Well, Russia might do whatever it wants, but it is not legit for the rest of the world. Even for their close allies like China or Belarus, still officially, they do not recognize Crimea as part of Russia. Even Crimea, not speaking about the rest of the occupied territories. Yeah, there is the only country which recognizes that, and it is North Korea, and we don't care what North Korea recognizes. The United States of America encourages China to attend the peace summit on Ukraine, which will take place in Switzerland very soon, but after all, I think China will refuse. They already say that they are going to refuse. It means that they're not going out there. The Slovak Prime Minister Fico, with his first statement after the attack, it seems like bullets didn't change his mind. He accused the opposition forces for the attack, he accused NATO for supporting Ukraine, and basically he follows his standard narratives. What can I say? Fico is Fico. Japan has delivered some of the off-road and supply vehicles for Ukraine. Japan still hesitates to supply lethal weaponry to Ukraine, but the supply vehicles also help a lot. Russia again launched the strike on Ukraine. There were explosions heard in Kyiv and in many other cities. What Russia wants to do is to hit more infrastructure, more power plants. Now even smaller ones are being under the fire. So Ukraine needs more and more air defense systems, obviously. Alright, what's about the front lines? Well, Russia today occupied Ivanivka. It's the Kharkiv Oblast. The battle was really severe out there with losses from both of the sides. And it is the only place where Russia moved for the recent 24 hours. Well, they do have the attempts to strike in many of the directions, but mainly they're very slow with it, or at some points they were completely stopped. If we go to Robotyne, however, it's been reported that it went to the gray zone completely. However, Russia is unable to establish their forces because there is no place to hide. All of the buildings with basements were absolutely demolished, so there is no village any longer. My friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.